everyone, welcome. Welcome to the May 2023 LAPPG meeting. We're so happy to have you guys all here with us today. We are so thrilled to have back our friends from SGO. We're going to be talking about streamlined metadata management and VFX editorial with Mistika Workflows. You probably know SGO, Mistika Technology, from their creative finishing and their VR stuff. But we're doing something different. We are solving workflow and pipeline issues today. So I don't know if you remember, but we had Juan Cabrera, who's here tonight. He is, not only is he a fantastic colorist, but he did an amazing presentation on the Alienist, which he colored using his Ultima system. And we also showed Mistika Boutique. We had Adrian doing that. Adrian's going to be back tonight. And then last year, we invited Lightsail VR and Dungeon Beach. I think, yes, Dungeon Beach. And they showed us this MetaQuest Fitness VR setup that they did that was amazing using Mistika technology. So tonight we are pivoting. We're looking at workflows and pipeline issues. And I want to welcome to join us this evening, Geoff Mills, the Managing Director at SGO. Hello, Geoff. Thank you for being here.
Hi,
and you're over, are you in England today?
I certainly am,
tonight?
Yes.
Okay, and it's very late, so thank you so much for being with us.
That's okay. It's
and we
pleasure.
have Eva Panjan, who is the marketing manager at SGO. Hello, Eva.
Hi, Wendy. How are you?
I'm good. And then we have Adrian González, and he's the Mistika Boutique product manager from SGO. So we got the full team with us tonight. We're so happy. Thank you for being with us.
We're going to show one example today, which is about really sort of, how we can unlock the issues around doing VFX pulls and all those issues that, surround that. So actually, the best thing is for actually Adrian to show everyone, and I'm sure they're going to really love what they see today.
Awesome. All right. Thanks so much. I'm going to hop off then.
Yeah, today we're going to show, a different software, a different idea compared with what we have shown in previous scenarios with Mistika Boutique and Mistika VR, because this software is probably more related with the technical stuff rather than creative stuff. And the idea with Mistika Workflows is to solve or to automate all those processes that day by day, basically, they are like a lot of time consuming basically in any pipeline. They take a lot of time. Many times they need to be managed manually, which is always a tricky thing in any pipeline. So we try to basically automate and optimize that kind of workflows with this tooling here, right? On the surface, it's a really simple software, at least from the interface perspective, really simple to use, really easy. We have a big canvas here in the middle, and then here on the left we have a list of inputs, tasks, and outputs. Right? We have many inputs, many tasks, so you can do basically anything here, and we will talk about that later. But you can basically apply it to any kind of pipeline. Today we're going to show only one example. As you can see here in the inputs, we have Aspera client, we have AWS, we have Dropbox, we have FTP, we have Signiant, we have single folders, normal folders, of course, we have watchers, etc. So we have tons of inputs here, tons of tasks, as you can see, transcoder tasks, checksums, etc. We will see some of them. And then we have many outputs as well, like Aspera, Frame.io, FTP again, Pix, Signiant, Slack, etc., right? So with this list of elements here, I can just build my pipeline. I can just build my workflow, the task that I want to automate, or the tasks in plural that I want to automate. So I'm going to start building a really simple workflow so you understand the concept, and then I will open what we have done for the VFX department, really. So I'm going to start in this pretty basic workflow with a normal watch folder. This is going to be like my trigger. So every time that a user puts something in this watch folder, the whole workflow will start automatically. So let's say that we want to create a workflow to transcode media to EXR, ProRes, upload that media to some service, communicate as well with my department once the media is uploaded, this kind of stuff, right? So with the watch folder, I'm going to connect here. I can search it so I can go faster. An EXR node. This is going to be like my transcoding node. So I'm going to transcode all the content in this watch folder to EXR. Of course, in this EXR, because, well, the end is the standard way to work, I'm going to set my color space as linear light, ACES linear light, which is the standard for EXRs normally. Then I will set a progress clip as well. So I will render as well those clips to progress. And in this particular case, I will set that to Rec 709. Okay, so let me find it. There you go. Rec 709. I'm going to disable the export CDLs. We will talk about that later. So for now, I'm going to disable them. And then I'm going to upload those EXR, let's say, to an FTP. Right, so I will upload those files to an FTP. And maybe the progress files can be uploaded to Frame.io, right, which is already integrated in Mistika Workflows. And of course, I want to send an email once those clips have uploaded to Frame.io. So maybe I can send an email to other department. Maybe I can send it to my customer. You know, you can communicate with any department in the way that you want, right? So this is a really simple workflow. This is just only for illustrate the idea of Mistika Workflows. We have an input element here, which is the watch folder. And again, every time that the user drops some media here, it will be transcoded automatically to EXR. The color space will be changed to linear light. Then it will be uploaded to an FTP. Then it will as well create a progress clip for them for that media in Rec 709, uploaded to Frame.io, and then it will send an email to, again, in my department, my customer, or whoever, just to let them know that the clip has been uploaded to Frame.io. So the idea of this workflow is to make all those tasks automatically. As you can see in some of the nodes, we have some dots on top. So basically, this is like a communication system between workflows and the user. So the idea here is to remove all the possible human mistakes during this process. So basically, those are icons that tell you if something is not configured or if it's ready to be launched. So Mistika Workflows has a really strict rule in this aspect. So it won't allow you to launch any workflow until all the dots in here are in green, or in other words, all the dots in here are ready, or the process are ready. So if we go, for example, to Frame.io and I select the Frame.io node, I can go to my validation inspector here, and it will tell me exactly why it's in orange, why it's not configured. Well, it will tell me that team ID cannot be empty, project ID cannot be empty, etc. So it's giving me information about the elements that are not configured. So in that way, the system is telling me what I need to do before launching this workflow, right? So again, really simple example, just for illustrating the concept behind Mistika Workflow. Now, let's see a real scenario. Some workflows that we have designed for automating the VFX pools pipeline. So I'm going to take one of these clips and I'm going to drop it. I'm not going to save this one, of course. Okay, so this is the VFX pipeline that we have built with Mistika Workflows. The idea here again is to automate the whole VFX pipeline, or, well, we are working on that. At this moment, you will see that most of it is automated. But the idea is to remove this kind of task, or remove the difficulties related with this kind of task, because at this moment, we found that it's normally done manually, especially for medium or small companies, small boutiques. In big companies, this is normally automated with custom scripts, but sometimes those scripts don't talk between each other, right? So, or it's not easy to manage those scripts, so you need an engineer for that. And if the engineer left the company, it's difficult to change something. So yeah, it's not a pipeline that is solved at this moment. So with Mistika Workflow, we can solve it in a really efficient way. And this is basically, again, the pipeline that we have built. It's a pipeline that is like divided in 3 workflows. So we have the 3 workflows here. We're going to talk about all of them. The first one, for me, is probably the most important one, at least as a first step, which is basically the conform workflow. So the idea of this workflow is to create the EXR plates and the progress files as reference for those EXR plates for the compositor. So this workflow here has have 2 inputs. So we have the watch folder here. This is one input. And then we have another folder here, which is basically my storage, my media. All right. So the element that is going to trigger this particular workflow is the watch folder. This watch folder, if we go to here to the parameters, we can see that it only accepts EDLs. So in that way, I remove any kind of problem if I just drop in there like a clip or any other kind of file. It won't do anything if another file is dropped in that folder. So in that way, we remove that kind of human mistake. So it will only accept EDLs. So let's take a look to one of those EDLs to know how it works and what is the information that we can expect in this kind of workflow. Okay, so let me open it bigger. So there you go. So this is an EDL. It's a pretty standard EDL. This comes from Avid, from Media Composer. And as you can see, we have basically, well, the traditional stuff. We have the tape name here for the clips. We have CDL information, which is really important for not only for this workflow, or not only for this pipeline, but it's really important from this pipeline. And in some of the shots, you will see that in the green locator, in this particular case, we are using the green locator, we will see basically the VFX name, the name that we want to use for my EXR plates, right? So again, I have here my tape name information, the name for the VFX, and the CDL information, right? So this is the information that comes with the EDL. So based on that, I'm going to make like several processes here. I'm going to automate several processes here. The first one is to extract the CDL information and put that CDL information as an independent files in a predefined folder here. So I define a folder here for as an output for my CDLs. And to name those CDLs, I'm just going to use one of the locators in my EDLs. In this case, I'm just defining to use only the green locator. I have several options. I can just define any locator, so it will try to search in all the locators to find the VFX name, or you can just define by color the locator that you want. In this particular case, again, I'm using the green locator. Now, a problem that we have seen, at least here in Spain, but I'm quite sure that it happens in other countries, is that sometimes in the same locator, in the editorial, they put basically not only the VFX name, but they add as well some comments like description, the traditional editorial comments that can be done in Avid or Premiere or Resolve or Final Cut, whatever. So in order to filter that information, because when you have both things in the same locator for the system, for Mistika in this case, it can be tricky to identify which is really the VFX name. So in order to filter that, we have included here like a list of some kind of name convention structure to basically find exactly that kind of piece of information that we need to name correctly my CDL clips, or well, my CDL files, right? Again, this is just only if in the same locator you have like different information, not only the VFX name. It's not this case because we have in the green locator only the VFX name, but yeah, in case that you have like a mixed information there, you can just use that setting here to filter automatically that info, right? And finally, well, we have the name convention here to name my CDL files. So if we take a look to the output of this workflow, I have my output here. Go to the conform output. I will go with all this folder just to show the result of all these nodes. So I go to the CDL, and there you go. Now we have here all the CDL clips or files automatically extracted with this node. Now the second node in here in this workflow, this is pretty cool, especially for those companies that works with DaVinci Resolve in their pipeline, which is pretty common at the end. So this node, what it does is like translate from the original EDL and create a new EDL that directly points to the VFX shots plus adding the markers, the original markers that were included in the EDL that comes from Avid in this case, from Media Composer in this case. So if we take a look again to our EDL, we find that we have here a mix of shots that are like, normal shots plus VFX shots. The shots that has the VFX name in the green locator, those are VFX shots. But as you can see, not all the shots have this information. So in order to, again, clean this EDL and create a new one based on this EDL, we basically use this node. Again, I'm going to select it again. This node to create an EDL that is optimized and designed specifically for DaVinci Resolve. And as you can see in this EDL, we just remove the original tape name of my files because it's not needed now. We just put the VFX name plus the markers for those shots in this EDL, right? So it's a pretty cool way, or an automatic way to create those EDLs, again, automatically designed for Resolve, right? So summarizing, the first node extracts the CDL information. The second one adapts the EDL and creates a new EDL, a new VFX EDL for DaVinci Resolve. Now, the most important part of this workflow is this one, the conform filter, because it's the one that is going to create the list of clips that needs to be used to create the EXR plates. So basically what this node does is just conforming, automatic conforming. So it used the information of the media composer EDL, again, this one. So it sets the input and output points like a normal conform. And then in here, we basically set the technical aspects of that EDL, like, for example, the frame rate. So I define that it's working at 25 frames per second. I'm going to match by tape name, although I have the option to match by clip name if I need it. I can match by path. I can match by extension. I don't need both because I don't have that info in the EDL, so it's not necessary. And of course, really important, I'm going to add some handles. I can add any number in there. I have a big number, to be honest, here, because normally you will probably add like 5-6 frames in the head and in the tail of the clip. But yeah, we can include some handles there. So this conform filter will conform automatically the EDLs. It will add those handles on the clips in the EDLs, and it will create automatically those EXR plates with the transcoding nodes that are connected to it. So basically, the output of the conform filter is a list of clips, trimmed clips with the handles included. And then with that information, we can do whatever we want. In this case, of course, transcoding that media automatically to the formats that I want. So I'm going to first transcode to EXR because those are the files that are going to be used on Nuke or Flame or Fusion or any compositor software. For the name of those EXRs, I will use the information contained again in the green locator. So we are using here metadata dynamic tokens, basically based on the metadata of the original files or based on the EDL. As you can see, we are using here the EDL base name because, well, we want to create a subfolder inside this directory with the name of the EDL. Then the mark green name, which is basically, again, the VFX name. And then as well, the frame, the extension, etc. We have a huge list of dynamic tokens that we can use for name my folders or my clips. Those are based again on metadata from the original clips or EDLs or whatever, right? So it's a pretty open list, and you can even include your own tokens. We will see that later, but you can even include your own tokens in case that they are not here, right? So again, this node will transcode the media and it will create those subfolders automatically, and it will name automatically the name of the VFX shots based on the green locator. Of course, again, we will transcode this in ASYS linear. In this particular case, I will toggle as well the export CDL. So we have two options to export the CDL: export all the CDLs in one folder with this first node, or just export individual CDLs per shot inside the subfolders, inside the specific subfolder. So that's another way to extract the CDL information. We have here in the transcoding all the codec settings, of course. We can define in here the compression. We can change the resolution, the frame rate if we need it. And the most important part in this area for this specific example is just change the first frame number. So you set in here 1001, and in that way you basically adapt the padding automatically to that number. And yeah, that's it. That's the EXR transcoding node, basically. I want to set, explaining here that normally we save all the metadata in the EXR, internally in every single frame. So we read all the metadata from the original files and we save that metadata inside every EXR frame, right? But in case that you are using a system that is not capable of reading that metadata correctly, or it's a bit tricky because, I don't know, it uses another system to read that metadata, we can export that metadata as a sidecar file in XMP or a normal CSV file that you can use or even import in other softwares. Like, for example, Resolve, we use the same structure that Resolve uses for the CSV. So you can export that metadata as well as a sidecar file with a clip, and you can import it in Resolve if you need it. So we have as well two ways to save that metadata, and as a sidecar file and internally on the clip, right? So we have both ways. Now, this is for the EXR plates, but of course we need our references in progress. So we are going to create our progress clips here as well, right? Now, the problem with progress is that we are using CDLs in this specific scenario, and we need to apply those CDLs on the progress files. In order to apply those CDLs, we need to build a color pipeline to apply the CDL in the correct moment, because you cannot apply it at any moment, really. So we have here all of the color engine that comes from Mistika Boutique and Mistika Ultima, which at the end are color systems, so they are very, very solid in this area. So we have here a unique color to define the input. In this particular case, I'm working with ARRI footage, so Logsith 3 and Alexa Wet Gamut, and then the output, which is IP1 and ACCCT. Then I will apply the CDL. This is the moment where I apply the CDL. And then I will transcode that to, I will change the color space to Rec 09 with the ACIS ODT. So with the CDL apply and the color pipeline defined, and now I can just render the progress clip, again, using the green locator, the information contained in the green locator for the name, okay? So if we take a look to the result of this workflow, this is the CDL. Those are the EDLs for resolve. Then we have the EXR with the different subfolders, and then inside the clips plus the CDL file at the end. And then we have as well the progress clips as well with the VFX name in there. So you can link the EXR plate with the reference in a pretty simple way, right? So again, this is the first workflow. This is to create the EXR files automatically. The element, just to go back to the beginning, the element that triggers everything is this watch folder. So anytime that a user put an EDL in there, it will read all the media from your storage, and it will conform that media and create the EXR plates and the references automatically, right? So this is the first step of the pipeline. Now, the great thing of workflows is that I can connect multiple workflows between them. So the output of this workflow is going to be the input of the next one, which is basically uploading those clips, the references and the metadata to ShotGrid. Okay, we're using ShotGrid here as an example. We can integrate to any platform or database. As long as we have an API connection, we can just connect to them in a really simple way, to be honest. So we have ShotGrid integrated with Mistika Workflows, and this is an example of how can we use it. So basically, the input of this workflow is, again, the output of the previous one, right? Now, something that I didn't show in the previous workflow because I didn't need it was the name convention field. Every single node in Mistika Workflows has a field called name convention. And this is really important because this allows me to define how the name of my files is built, right? So if I open this, you will see it in here. So I'm defining here that the name of my files are, I'm just saying that there is built with project _ episode number _ sequence _ shot _ process, and then the extension, right? So basically, dynamically, I'm defining the different parts of my files. If we take a look to one of those clips, like for example, this one, we can see it here. So EGO is the project in this case, _ is the underscore. Then we have the episode number, which is 101. Then we have the sequences with the sequence, which is the 20th sequence, and then we have the shot, which is the 10th shot, right? And the last part here is the process, right? The process by itself is a token that is not part of Mistika Workflows. Is not built in the library of Mistika Workflows, and that's the reason why we use this node in here in between. This node is pretty powerful because what it does is that if you define something here in brackets that is not in our list of tokens, it will include that element in that list. So you can use it in later nodes if you want to use it for, I don't know, name things during transcoding or to move things to a different subfolder. So you can use it for later use, or it's just another metadata tag that we have defined thanks to this node. You don't need to do anything, just put the node in there and the whole system will manage that automatically, right? So based on these tokens that we have defined as an input, we can basically upload all the metadata and the reference shots to my ShotGrid database. So the first ShotGrid node in here, it will create the project, right? We set in here the name of the project. And if the project is already created, it will jump to the next step, which is basically creating the sequence. And as you can see, for naming the sequences, we are using the tokens that we define in the input. So it will create those sequences automatically, and the name will be right. It will be based on the input clips in this particular case. So in that way, you can just again upload everything in an automatic way with the right name. So this is going to be the sequence. Then we will create the shot. Okay, again, using metadata tokens, dynamic metadata tokens in here. We have the option of upload media as attachment, as a thumbnail. So we have here the different options for ShotGrid, right? So yeah, you can configure in the way that you want. But for me, the most important part in this presentation, at least, is to explain how those elements are created in the database and how and which aspects of the name are used to create those elements in the database. So in this case, again, using those dynamic tokens from the input. So again, once the shot is created, if you upload again another version of the shot, of course, you will want to create a version. So in that way, you can create all the elements in ShotGrid dynamically based on the previous workflow, the one that creates the EXR plates and the references automatically, right? So this is at the second part of this pipeline. The third one, which is this workflow over here, is not necessarily linked with VFX pipelines, although we are using it in that scenario, but it's a really powerful workflow that shows one of the best capabilities of Mistika Workflows, that is the flexibility that you have with their nodes. So basically here, we have like a media management workflow, which looks a bit scary, but I think once I explain it, it will be easy to understand. So basically here, I'm using again as an input, the output of my first workflow here, right? I'm using as an input the output of my first workflow. And in this particular case, in the name convention, I'm just defining that the name of my shots are basically base name and underscore process. So I'm doing that because I want just to focus on the process part of the name. So on the last part of the name, in this particular case, as you can see, for example, in this clip is the layer 001, right? So I'm going to focus only on that part of the name. Again, I'm using this magic node that basically add to our token list, in this particular case, the process dynamic token, right? And then this is connected to a classify by metadata node. This node is extremely powerful because this node allows me to filter any kind of input based on any kind of metadata field on the clip or the files. So I can filter based on resolution. I can filter based on aspect ratio. I can filter based on frame rate, based on color space, lens type, camera type. I can filter based on anything, or even based on my own metadata tokens. So in this particular case, I'm using the process token. So here in the classify by metadata, I'm defining that the element that you are going to use for filtering is process, right? And then I'm defining some outputs. And I'm telling the system, okay, if the process part of the name starts with, or there is an exact match, or contains, or ends with, I'm using a start in this particular case, start with layer, reference, EDL markers, VFX cut, CDL, etc. You can do something with that, right? So in that way, I'm filtering everything based on one specific element of the name, and with that I can just do whatever I want. I can just transcode. I can upload to different services. I can reorganize the media, which is what I'm going to do right now. So you have all the options available with these different outputs, right? So with every of these outputs, basically I add a node that is called change name convention. This allows me to define the name convention of those shots. And this is important because let's say that you have as an input files that they are really different between them from the name, and only the last part is the part that is common in the way that you can filter that part, but the rest of the name it changed depending on the shot. So because in this particular case we only define like base name as a generic field for the rest of the name, is not very useful. But once we have filtered based on the process part of the name, then I can assign a new name convention to those clips. This is it's metadata. I don't need to render or transcode anything. Just tell the system how the name of those clips is built. And then from here, I can just move those clips to different subfolders based on those metadata tokens, right? So I can reorganize a whole list of clips based on the name, and I can create different subfolders based on the name. So in that way, I can organize again my whole storage if I need it, based on the name of those clips. Again, because I'm using as an input the output of the first workflow, I can manage the name in a cleaner way, because at the end those files, the files created in the input in the first workflow are automatically created with dynamic tokens. So it's more difficult to have like a human mistake naming those shots. But yeah, you can use this system to organize your media, no matter if that media is created with another workflow or it's just because someone just have put it in there manually, right? The great thing with the classify by metadata is that you can connect multiple classifiers between them. So for example, I can just add a classify by metadata node that, for example, filter based on resolution. So I have here different resolutions. I can just type in here any resolution, any custom resolution if I need it. Then you can, for example, add another metadata node that classify by FPS. So let's say that I want to classify only the HD files, and then only with the 24 clips, 24 frames per second, sorry, I will create some, I don't know, ProRes clips, right? So in that way, you can just like filter your media and do something specifically with one kind of media, not with all kind of media, right? So you can connect multiple classifiers between them to filter any input, right? Now, the idea with Mistika Workflows is to have all these backgrounds running, all these workflows, running in the background, right? To automate those processes. So of course, it's necessary to talk, to have a communication with the department. So if something fails, you need to know it, because at the end, if this is working in the background and no one is checking it, if there is a mistake, you need to know it, right? So for that, we have created a node called fail UPS. And fail UPS is a node that you can have in any workflow just running in the background. And what this node does is basically collects those processes that has failed. So by default, it won't do anything. So if everything goes well, you won't get any message from this node. But if something fails, it will collect that data. And with the output, you can do something like, for example, send you an email. So you can send an email to tell you, hey, this process has failed for whatever reason. Mistika Workflows always tells you what is happening, because we have here a render log. So if something fails, you will know exactly when has failed with clip has been the one that has failed. And even this information is written in a text file. So you can just open the text file with an editor and just check it in there if you want to. So yeah, all that log is saved in your system in case that you want to go like days ago and just check what happened during one workflow days ago, right? So again, Mistika Workflow is always telling you what is going well, what is going wrong. So it's very difficult to lose anything there, or it's very, very difficult to not know if something wrong happened during this automatic process, right? One amazing thing of Mistika Workflows is the fact that it's completely open and you can just add your own scripts because it's Python based. So you can add here your own functionalities. For example, you can create here a Python node. I'm going to put Python node that, for example, opens an external application. You can do something with that application and continue the workflow with the result of that, for example. You can include, again, your own functionalities. And even if you just want to see how those nodes are built, you can just select one of these nodes, like, for example, the CDL extractor, go to the Python code, and here you have all our Python code. So you can just copy, tweak it, modify it, create your own nodes based on that. So this whole software is really open. So we don't try to hide anything in a way that you can just build your own pipelines or workflows. If you have, the knowledge to do it, you will be able to create those here, right? Is completely integrated with render farms, because we know that many of those processes are normally managed by render farms. So it's at this moment is completely integrated with Deadline, for example. You can send a whole workflow to Deadline, or you can send just a specific task. So for example, let's say in this particular workflow here, let's say that we want just to send to Deadline the EXR transcoding, because, well, the CDL extraction or the EDL for resolve are pretty simple tasks. Any local system can just do it in seconds or milliseconds. But the EXR transcoding is heavier, of course. So you can send that to render farm, to Deadline in this case. So all the transcoder here, if we go to the settings, we have like a button here. If I enable it, now this task will go to deadline. So only this task will be sent to my render farm to basically speed up the job by splitting this EXR in blocks of frames and use different render nodes to process this, right? Of course, sending image sequences to render farms is quite easy because you have like independent frames that you can send to different render nodes, and that's it. It's a pretty simple task. It's a bit trickier if you have movies normally, but to improve that or to speed up, we have created as well a node that is called split movie that allows you basically to split this movie in blocks of any amount of custom frames in here. And then, of course, we have a join movie. So you can just join the movie again in one single piece or in one single clip. So in that way, you can send like ProRes files or MXF files to a render farm, just split them in segments, render them in parallel, and then join again the result in one single clip that that can be used for whatever process, right? So again, as you can see, it's really open. It's integrated with many applications. You saw Frame.io, but again, we have Pix, we have ShotGrid, we have Asperia, Signiant, etc. You can add your own functionalities thanks to Python. And in fact, this is just one example of what we can do. I mean, for us, this is just like an empty, flexible canvas where you can just put here whatever you want. It's some kind of task manager that allows you to automate any kind of process. The things that we put in here, and you don't need to worry about them, is the fact that we support all the official SDK codecs for all the cameras, really, because that comes from Mistika Boutique and Mistika Ultima. We have a really powerful color engine behind it. We have a really powerful transcoding system behind it. So yeah, that's the main point of Mistika Workflows. You can just do whatever you want, but the base is done by us, so you don't need to worry about it. So yeah, this is just an example. I hope you like it, and if you have questions, I think this is the moment. Yeah.
So I can see that Benjamin actually put one question into the chat. So he says that he was a little late to the meeting, and he's asking if this workflow is primarily for DI delivering plays to VFX vendors.
Yeah, this one, yeah. I mean, is focused more on creating the files for the different VFX vendors. Yeah, but again, you can use it for. I mean, not just this specific workflow, but Mistika Workflow can be used for any kind of pipeline. But yeah, this a specific example is more focused on VFX vendors and that kind of companies. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then we have another question from Aaron. He's asking about the Python. So do you need to know Python to write unique instructions?
We have an API for an API, yeah, like an API in our website to learn how to build those nodes. But of course, you need to know about Python to program that. But again, that's only if you want to add your own functionality there and it's not part of Mistika Workflow. Something that probably we need to mention is that we are offering custom development services with Mistika Workflow. So in case that someone doesn't have the knowledge or the time, because of course we can develop this faster because it's our product. So if someone doesn't have the time or the knowledge to develop these tools, we can just do it through a conversation. I mean, we can just talk about it and see what we can do for you. We can help you.
I think that's a very good point, actually, that Adrian's made there, is that, you know, a lot of what we're doing with our customers is to actually offer those custom development services. And that might be to create different nodes that you see here. It might actually even to be able to work with you on your different sort of workflow requirements and let us build these pipelines for you as well. So there's various things you can do. But yeah, you would, if you want to do the Python scripting yourselves, you do need to have a bit of knowledge. There's a lot of help, online help that we have built into the system, which is obviously, you know, very useful. Yeah, I mean, we're open to work with anyone, you know, to unlock what, you know, their bottlenecks and their requirements.
Absolutely. Okay, let's go with chat. Does it support Dolby Vision, DV, metadata, and HDR?
Not at this moment, but is planned to move it in there because we already have it in Mistika Boutique and Mistika Ultima. One great thing of Mistika Workflows is that because the code in all of our products, the code is the same. So basically, the engine, the Mistika engine, is the same. So we can move features between different products. In fact, we have here some features for VR production that we are not showing today because it's another different pipeline. But with Dolby, we can just move again the Dolby analysis and algorithms here to automate the analysis of a timeline of the clips if it's necessary. So yeah, we will move that functionality at some point.
Okay. So the next one, it's a little bit more technical, says Jacob. What version of the R3D SDK is Mistika using? And is there somewhere I could find this type of information?
During the version of the R3D SDK, we always implement the latest version. So yeah, at this moment, this particular build that I have in here, because it's a beta version, of course, an internal beta, it has the latest SDK version for R3D. We normally update the SDKs every time that we make a new release of the product. So yeah, it should have the latest one.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I see another question in the chat. About the VR pipeline, if we have anything related to VR pipeline online.
Well, probably not at this moment. I think we need to build some to create some content to cover that. The VR pipeline is something as well relatively new to Mistika Workflows. I think we made a couple of tutorials or some tutorial about it in the previous version of Mistika Workflows, but it's not so advanced like this one. So yeah, we will create some content for that. As a simple summary of what we can do with it is basically you can stitch automatically your media because you can filter the different inputs based on the names, for example, and you can apply a template. Those templates are basically templates that you create in Mistika VR or in Mistika Boutique. So yeah, that's another topic that we haven't mentioned, but you can create your own stack of effects in Mistika Boutique or Mistika VR, and you can use those stacks as templates for Mistika Workflow. So you can automate the application of those templates, which is really great for Mistika VR because you can stitch hundreds of shots in automatically in that way. And well, if there is a Mistika users here, well, Juan Cabrera is here, and he will know it. But in Mistika, every time that we make a render, we create as well another like R&D file. It's a metadata file that contains all the information before you make that render. So you will have all the information, all the stitch information for that automatic stitching pipeline. So in case that you want to refine the result, you can just open that metadata file into Mistika Boutique or Mistika VR and refine the result in there and then make a specific render for that shot. But yeah, we can just build a whole pipeline to automate the stitching process if it's necessary.
Yeah, I think this video is one of the next ones we need to prepare for our VR users. So definitely coming with the next version.
Mm-hmm.
So next question we have. So do you plan to develop any QC reports for deliverables in the future?
That's a really common question and request. So I guess that we will do it at some point. Absolutely. Yeah. It makes sense. Totally. It makes sense because if you can just put in here some automatic algorithm to detect, I don't know, death pixels or whatever, this is the proper tool to use it. So yeah, that has been like a common request. So I'm guessing that at some point we will include it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, next one is from Jimmy. Can the workflow handle image manipulation tasks such as resizing 8K plates to 4K, generating EXR files with certain filtering algorithms, or extracting only 80% of the frame for VFX work instead of the entire frame?
Okay, so yeah, in all the transcoders, as you will see here, we have here the resolution field where you can just, well, we have a list of resolutions in there, but you can just define your own custom resolution, setting here the resolution X and Y, and then the way that it fits the image. But not only that, we have as well a change resolution node. So let me find it here, change resolution node, that allows you to change the resolution in a percentage way or by pixels. So we have the same tools that you have in the transcoder, plus the percentage way to rescale your media. So we have both options. Yeah, you can do it directly in the transcoder or use an intermediate node in here. Yeah.
I think this might have been answered, but it said, how do new inputs and outputs get added? Something like new object storage provider. That was from James.
I don't know if I understand the question.
I answered that actually. I mean, basically, if you want a new input or output that you see on the left-hand side here, it's we could actually develop that for customers, or obviously you could actually do that with your own Python scripts if you wanted to, with different APIs and things. So, I mean, we've kind of opened the Pandora's box with this really, because the application of this product is so far-reaching that obviously people want to do all sorts of things with it. So it does a lot now. But if there's things that people want to do that are not in there, then obviously we can develop almost anything. So it's just a discussion with us really about what you want to do.
So Mistika VR is a subscription-based product. So basically you can choose between monthly or annual subscription. And then we also offer 30-day or 1-year single-use licenses.
Awesome. Okay, very cool.
And they're also, and the software is also available on Windows, Mac, and Linux as well. So even sort of doing the ProRes stuff, that's actually official Apple ProRes in there across all those operating systems, which is pretty cool.
Very cool. Well, you were right, Geoff. It is a game changer, and I think that there's just, like you said, it's a Pandora's box. So it's just going to get more and more and more is going to be coming out of this. So, thank you so much.
I think when it's just to remind everyone actually that this product is for a professional license is around €69 a month. So it's really affordable, actually. So, and again, we've made it that way because we want everyone to use it. It doesn't matter what systems you're using, what creative systems you're using, what you want to link to, whatever. We want everyone to be able to utilize this software because we do think, it is pretty special and it's incredibly scalable. So yeah, we want to make it easy for everyone.
Awesome. I like that price point. That's very cool. Yeah. So I just want to give a big thank you to Adrian. Great demo. You packed a whole lot in there. I'm impressed. You got through that. That was actually way more than I thought it was going to be, just like a little demo. It's like, wow, there's so much good stuff. So thank you so much for showing us those different pipelines and everything. And thank you, Geoff and Ava. And I also want to let you guys know we are on Facebook, we are on Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Use the hashtag LAPPG. And please follow us, and we'll do our best to follow you. And a big thank you to our partners, our Platinum A2A partner, as well as our Gold partners, Adobe, Blackmagic, OWC, Zeiss, and Frame.io. And of course, our Silver partners as well. We really appreciate their support, Isotope, SGO, and Media Silo by Shift Media. All right. And it takes a village. So we have our supporting partners, our media partners, and our community partners. Please support them if you can. They support us, and we're able to bring these to you every month. And make sure you catch up on past meetings. I think it was our February meeting we had, So You Think You're Indestructible. And this was with Lydia Hurlbut, the CEO of Filmmakers Academy. And in this one, we talked about stress and how you can start to take better care of yourself, both professionally and personally. Lydia gave us some amazing tips, including her personal well-being kit that she takes with us. And she also talked about different strategies that you can use for dealing with stress. So definitely check out that video. It's on our YouTube channel. Say that again, YouTube channel. And we have I bet we're almost at we're probably close to 100. We're probably between 90 and 100 videos on there by now. So check out our videos. And if you subscribe, make sure you click the bell icon so that you get notified when new videos drop. And a big thank you to SGO and Geoff, Ava, and Adrian. I hope you guys all have a good month, and we'll see you back here in June.